Hi there, welcome back to my channel. So today in this video I want to go deeper into the psychological analysis of the relationship between Jake and Vince in Black Rabbit, and also look at how the two actors amplify and transform this relationship into a mother tragedy about guilt, brotherly love, and emotional survival. So let's start. Black Rabbit is the story of one person split in two bodies. Jake and Vince are complementary projections of the same complex trauma, the child raised in abuse who learned two different ways to survive. Jake is repression, control, artificial morality, and Vince is impulse, active guilt, desperate search for forgiveness. They're both running from the same fear, the fear of becoming their father. But they do it in opposite ways. Jake builds an immaculate image and Vince constantly destroys his. Jake has a perfect defiance mechanism. Psychologically speaking, Jake is a parentified child, the one who had to grow up too early. After their father's death and the family's collapse, he became Vince's protector, then the successful man, compensating through order and morality for what he can't fix inside. The clear symptoms of complex trauma is that he has the obsessive need for control, refusal of direct emotional confrontation, internalized shame masked by reason and elegance, affective avoidance behavior. He doesn't love, he manages. Jude Law actually plays this flawlessly. The calculated gaze, the small and restrained gestures, the low, the controlled voice, all conveying a man living under a perfectly polished shell full of invisible cracks. When he speaks to Vince, it's as if he's stuck into his own conscience. Jake is the man who learned to lie beautifully because his truth would have destroyed everything. Now Vince, on the other hand, is the lost child frozen in trauma. He can't repress anything, he feels everything too deeply: shame, pain, anger, and love, all in the same body and soul. That's why he reacts viscerally. He consumes, lies, steals, sacrifices himself. Not as a criminal, but as a man desperate to feel something real in a world that's taken everything from him. Bateman brings an unexpected nuance. He doesn't play a rebel, but a connection addict. You can see he provokes Jace not to destroy him, but to force him to feel, to acknowledge their shared wound. Vince screams exactly what Jake keeps silent, and together they form a complete truth. That's why psychologically their relationship is codependent. Jake needs Vince's chaos to feel like it's the good one, and Vince needs Jake's balance to stop himself from collapsing. They can't exist without each other, yet they can't function together either. Each mirrors the other at the exact point of greatest pain. The symmetry is what makes the ending so devastating. Vince's death isn't just the loss of a brother, it's the death of Jake's last authentic part. That's why after Vince's sacrifice, Jake doesn't become free, he becomes empty, a man surviving without identity. Jude Law is an actor of intellectual refinement and quiet suffering, gives Jake a false, almost narcissistic perfection, hiding the pain in an unforgiven child. On the other hand, Jason Bateman, known for blending irony with emotional tension, like in Ozark, brings a heartbreaking humanity to Vince. His sarcasm is a protective mask for a sheltered soul. Together they convey an almost incestuous emotional tension, a brotherly love that mutates into moral dependency. When they fight, you feel them tearing each other apart psychologically, not just verbally. When they reconcile, they seem like two children who still believe they can be saved. Definitely Black Rabbit uses their brotherhood as a metaphor for inner reconciliation. Vince is the shadow, instincts in impulse, and Jake is the persona, the social mask, the ordered lie. The ending where Vince dies, or suicide, isn't just an act of atonement, it's the moment when the shadow sacrifices itself to free the mask. But for Jake, the act doesn't bring peace, it brings absence. Only the void remains, proof that you can't kill your dark side without killing a part of yourself. So the conclusion is that Jake Vince's relationship in the series Black Rabbit is a cynical portrait of a transgenerational trauma, emotional codependence, and the search for forgiveness through suffering, which is the only language both understand. So, Jude Law and Jason Bateman aren't playing two brothers, they're playing two halves of the same being, each trying to save the other without realizing they're really trying to save themselves. So please, tell me in the comments, what do you think about their relationship and their personalities?